The massive alien ships appeared at the edge of our solar system like nightmares made real. They were nothing like the metal spacecraft humans had always imagined. These vessels looked alive, their dark surfaces pulsing with strange lights that moved like blood through veins. Captain Lee Dong-min was drinking his morning coffee aboard the Earth Defense Force destroyer when his world changed forever. "Sir, you need to see this," Lieutenant Park Jin-woo called out, his voice shaking. The young officer had been monitoring deep space for 3 years and had never seen anything like this. His hands trembled as he adjusted the sensors, hoping. He was wrong about what he was seeing. The readings were impossible. 12 massive objects, each the size of a small moon, had just appeared from nowhere. They weren't following any known physics. No engine signatures, no heat trails, nothing. That made sense according to human science. They had simply materialized in the void beyond Pluto's orbit. Down on Earth, Admiral Kim So-ra was in her office reviewing training reports when the emergency alert came through. The sound made her blood run cold. She had been preparing for this moment for 15 years. Ever since humanity's first deep space probes had picked up disturbing signals from nearby star systems, entire civilizations going silent. Worlds that had been broadcasting for centuries suddenly falling dark. The underground command center beneath Mount Baekdu came alive with activity. Officers ran between stations while massive screens displayed tactical information from across the solar system. This wasn't a drill anymore. This was the real thing. "All stations report ready, Admiral," reported Colonel Yoon Tae-ho from his position on Ganymede. His Jupiter defense grid had been disguised as mining equipment for years, waiting for this moment. The massive railguns hidden in the asteroid belt were charging their capacitors, preparing for what might be humanity's last stand. Aboard the alien flagship, Huntmaster Velkar studied the blue-green world that would soon become their hunting ground. His species, the Kethvar, had been doing this for thousands of years. They traveled from star to star, seeking intelligent prey that could provide the ultimate hunting experience. Fear made the meat taste better, they believed. Terror seasoned the flesh. Another primitive world, hissed his second-in-command, Thexmore. The reptilian creature's forked tongue tasted the air, already anticipating the feast to come. Their electromagnetic signals are crude. They barely understand space travel. The Kethavar had studied humanity from afar. They knew about our wars, our technology, our weaknesses. What they saw was a young species that had just started reaching beyond their home planet. Humans had managed to establish a few colonies on Mars and some mining operations in the asteroid belt, but nothing that looked threatening to an advanced alien civilization. They were wrong. Hidden throughout the solar system, humanity's true defenses waited in silence. What looked like innocent space junk were actually weapon platforms. Mining ships were really disguised warships. Even the communication satellites had been modified with defensive systems. Humanity had learned from history that the best defense was the one your enemy never saw coming. Major Choi Minna sat in her fighter cockpit, drifting silent among the asteroids. Her ship looked like just another piece of space debris, but it was actually one of humanity's most advanced stealth fighters. She had been waiting here for 6 hours, watching the alien fleet approach through passive sensors. "This is Ghost Squadron," she whispered into her radio. "Targets confirmed. They're big, ugly, and they think we can't see them coming." Her wingman, Lieutenant Seo Junho, adjusted his grip on the controls. "Orders, Major?" "We wait," she replied. "Let them get closer. Let them think they're in control." The alien ships moved deeper into the system, their organic hulls rippling with bioluminescent patterns. To the Kethvar, these lights were a form of communication, telling stories of past hunts and promising glory in the hunt to come. They had no idea that human computers were already analyzing those patterns, learning their language, preparing countermeasures. Dr. Han Yu-jin, Earth's leading xenobiologist, watched the approaching fleet from her laboratory. She had spent years studying the fragments of alien technology that human scouts had recovered from dead worlds. She knew what was coming better than anyone. "They're not here to conquer," she reported to Admiral Kim. "They don't want our resources or our planet. They want us, their hunters, and we're the prey they've come to collect." The Admiral's face remained calm. but her knuckles were white as she gripped the edge of her command console. Then they're about to learn something about prey that fights back. Across the solar system, human forces prepared for the battle of their lives. They had no illusions about their chances. The aliens had technology far beyond anything humanity possessed. But humans had something the Kethvar had never encountered before: the willingness to turn their entire civilization into a weapon rather than submit to becoming someone else's hunting trophy. The hunt was about to begin, but the aliens had made one critical mistake. They assumed they knew which species was the predator and which was the prey. Huntmaster Velkar decided it was time to show these primitive humans what real power looked like. The Kethvar had done this dance 1,000 times before, on 1,000 different worlds. First came the demonstration, a show of overwhelming force that would break the prey's spirit before the real hunt began. The mining platform orbiting Europa never stood a chance. One moment it was there, home to 300 human workers extracting precious metals from Jupiter's frozen moon. The next moment it was gone, turned into glowing particles by concentrated plasma beams that hit with the force of a small star. Colonel Yun Taeho watched it happen from his command post on Ganymede. He had friends on that platform. Good people, who were just doing their jobs, trying to make a living in the cold emptiness of space. Now they were nothing but scattered atoms floating in the void. "Those bastards," he whispered, his hands clenching into fists. The tactical display showed the alien fleet moving closer, their bioships pulsing with what looked almost like satisfaction. They were enjoying this. The alien message came through on all frequencies, their words automatically translated by human computers that had been working overtime to crack their language. The voice was cold, reptilian, filled with ancient hunger. "Primitive, creatures of the third world, you have been chosen for the great hunt. Your species shows promise as worthy prey. Submit now and your deaths will be swift and honorable. Resist and we will make your suffering last for generations." Captain Lee Dong-min heard those words from the bridge of his destroyer and felt something cold settle in his stomach. These weren't conquerors looking for territory or resources. These were predators who saw humans as nothing more than animals to be hunted for sport. "All ships, this is Admiral Kim," came the voice over the fleet communication system. "You've all heard their message. Now here's ours." The response that went back to the alien fleet was simple and direct. "You have committed murder against the human species. You have 30 seconds to begin immediate withdrawal from our system, or we will show you what happens when prey decides to bite back." Velkar heard the translation and actually laughed, a sound like grinding stones. How amusing. The cattle think they can threaten us. He turned to his weapons officer. "Destroy another of their installations. Show them what defiance costs." That was when humanity's trap sprang shut. What the aliens had mistaken for empty space suddenly erupted with weapons fire. Hidden platforms that had been disguised as space debris came online all at once. Railguns that had been drifting silent among the asteroids began firing solid projectiles at incredible speeds. Major Choi Minna's fighter squadron emerged from their hiding spots like hunting wolves. "All units, this is Ghost Leader. Light them up." The first volley hit 3 Kethvar scout ships before they even knew they were under attack. The aliens' bioarmor, designed to deflect energy weapons, simply couldn't handle the kinetic force of solid metal traveling at 30% of light speed. The alien ships cracked open like eggs, spilling their crews into the vacuum of space. "Impossible," Thexmore hissed, staring at the tactical display in shock. "How are they doing this? Our intelligence said they were primitives." But the humans were just getting started. From Mars came a swarm of autonomous hunter-killer drones, each one no bigger than a car, but packed with enough explosive power to cripple a small ship. They moved in perfect coordination, like a school of metallic fish, diving and weaving through space to avoid the aliens' return fire. Commander Bae Hyejin led the Mars Defense Fleet in a coordinated strike that caught the Kethvar completely off guard. Her ships had been hiding behind the red planet, using its bulk to mask their approach. Now they came screaming around Mars at full acceleration, their missile tubes already loaded and ready. "Target their propulsion systems," she ordered her fleet. I want them stranded and helpless. Lieutenant Seo Jun-ho, flying alongside Major Choi, managed to get a clean shot at one of the larger alien vessels. His missile punched through the bioship's hull and exploded inside, causing the entire structure to convulse like a wounded animal. Direct hit, he reported. That big one's not going anywhere. The battle raged for hours. Every time the aliens thought they had figured out humanity's tactics, something new would emerge from the void. Weapon platforms disguised as communications satellites, mining ships that suddenly revealed hidden missile launchers. Even the space elevators connecting Earth to its orbital stations turned out to be giant railguns in disguise. Dr. Han Yu-jin monitored the battle from her laboratory, analyzing every piece of data that came in. They're not adapting fast enough, she reported to Admiral Kim. Their entire culture is built around hunting prey that runs away. They don't know how to fight an enemy that actually fights back. The psychological impact was devastating. The Kethvar had spent millennia as the galaxy's apex predators. They had never encountered resistance like this. Their prey was supposed to cower and flee, not coordinate complex military strategies and turn their entire solar system into a death trap. Velkar watched in growing horror as his mighty fleet was slowly torn apart by creatures he had dismissed as primitive animals. This wasn't how the hunt was supposed to go. The prey wasn't acting like prey at all. For the first time in his long life, the Huntmaster began to understand what fear felt like. The battle had been raging for 6 days, and the Kethvar were beginning to realize they had made a terrible mistake. What should have been a simple hunt had turned into a nightmare that none of their ancient traditions had prepared them for. Commander Bei Haye-jin led her Mars defense fleet in another series of hit-and-run attacks that left the alien invaders confused and desperate. Her ships would appear from behind asteroids like ghosts, launch their deadly cargo, then vanish back into the void before the Kethvar could even target them properly. Strike Team Alpha, target the big one on the left, she commanded through her headset. Bravo Team, take out their communication array. Charlie Team, you're with me. We're going for their engine cluster. The human tactics were unlike anything the aliens had ever encountered. The Kethvar were used to straightforward hunts where prey either ran or fought in panicked desperation. But humans fought with cold calculation, turning every piece of space, debris into a potential weapon, every shadow into a hiding place. What disturbed the aliens most wasn't just the human technology, though. It was their methods. Sergeant Lim Sung-min led the first successful boarding operation against a crippled Kethvar vessel. The alien ship had been damaged by railgun fire and was drifting helplessly near Jupiter's orbit. Instead of finishing it off quickly, the humans had different plans. Breach successful, Lim reported as his team cut through the bioship's hull. Moving to secure the bridge. I want prisoners, people. We need to understand how these things think. The Kethvar warriors inside the ship expected a quick death in combat. That's how their own species operated. But the humans had something else in mind entirely. Dr. Han Yu-jin arrived on the captured ship with her medical team 12 hours later. What she found there would change everything humans knew about their enemy. The aliens weren't just hunters. They were sadistic predators who had turned cruelty into an art form. Set up the laboratory in their main chamber, she ordered her assistants. I want to understand every detail of their biology, how they think, how they feel pain, what scares them. The captured Kethvar warriors watched in growing horror as the humans began systematic interrogation procedures. But this wasn't the quick torture for information that they expected. This was scientific study, cold and methodical, designed to understand every weakness their species possessed. Please, gasped one of the captured aliens as Dr. Han made careful incisions to study their nervous system. We surrender. We yield the hunt. This is not honorable combat. Dr. Han looked up from her work, her expression completely neutral. This isn't combat at all. This is research. You came here to hunt us like animals, so now we're going to study you like specimens. The psychological warfare began soon after. Human forces had learned to hack into the Kethvar communication networks, and they began broadcasting the sounds of their captured enemies back to the main fleet. Not just their death screams, but detailed medical reports about alien anatomy, tactical analyses of their weaknesses, and recordings of captured Kethvar begging for mercy. Captain Lee Dong-min coordinated these broadcasts from his ship. Make sure every alien vessel receives this data, he told his communications officer. I want them to know exactly what's happening to their friends. The effect on the Kethvar fleet was devastating. These were predators who had never experienced fear, never been on the receiving end of systematic hunting. They had no cultural framework for understanding what was happening to them. Major Choi Min-ah noticed the change during her next patrol mission. The alien formations are getting sloppy, she reported to Fleet Command. They're jumping at shadows, firing at asteroids, breaking formation whenever we get close. Lieutenant Seo Jun-ho, flying alongside her, had observed the same thing. It's like they're afraid of us now, really afraid. Colonel Yoon Tai-ho, commanding the Jupiter Defense Grid, began implementing new psychological tactics based on Dr. Han's research. We know they communicate through those light patterns on their ship, and he explained to his officers. Our computers have cracked part of their language. Let's send them some messages of our own. The messages that human forces began transmitting to the alien fleet weren't threats or demands for surrender. They were detailed descriptions of human hunting techniques throughout history. How ancient humans had chased mammoths to exhaustion across frozen plains. How persistence hunters in Africa could run down antelope over dozens of miles. How humans had driven entire species to extinction, not through superior strength, but through relentless, organized pursuit. Velkar received these transmissions and felt something he had never experienced before. The cold touch of genuine terror. These humans weren't just fighting back, they were demonstrating that they understood hunting better than the Kethvar themselves. They never stop, he whispered to Thexmore as they watched another of their ships fall to human attacks. Even when we retreat, they follow. Even when we hide, they find us. They don't hunt for glory or honor. They hunt to eliminate threats completely. The Huntmaster's second-in-command was studying the tactical displays with growing desperation. Perhaps we should withdraw, find easier prey elsewhere. But it was already too late for that. Human ships had begun appearing throughout Kethvar space, using captured navigation data to track down alien colonies and outposts. The hunters had become the hunted, and their prey had proven to be far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The Kethvar had awakened something terrible in humanity, something that had been sleeping since the days when early humans had to fight for survival against creatures far larger and stronger than themselves. The same instinct that had driven humans to the top of Earth's food chain was now turned against aliens who had made the fatal mistake of trying to hunt them. Captain Kwon Jae-sung stood on the bridge of humanity's first deep space pursuit vessel, watching alien stars grow larger on his view screen. 3 weeks had passed since the last Kethvar ship fled Earth's solar system, but the humans weren't content to simply celebrate their victory. They had learned something important from captured alien data cores. The Kethvar had a vast network of colonies and hunting grounds spread across dozens of star systems. Navigation confirms we're approaching the Kethvar staging area, reported his helmsman, Lieutenant Nam Ki-tai. Long-range sensors are picking up multiple biosignatures. The human fleet had grown considerably since the initial battle. Using reverse-engineered alien technology, human engineers had managed to create hybrid ships that combined Earth's industrial might with Kethvar biotechnology. These new vessels could travel between stars in days rather than decades. But it wasn't just the technology that had changed. The entire human approach to warfare had evolved. Lieutenant Colonel Moon Yoon-ji commanded the 1st Special Operations Team to infiltrate alien territory. Her mission was simple but terrifying. Take the fight directly to Kethvar civilian populations, just as they had planned to do to humanity. Remember, people, she briefed her team as they prepared to deploy. These aliens came to our home planning to hunt our families for sport. They wanted to turn our children into trophies. Now we're going to show them what happens when you threaten the wrong species. The first alien colony to experience human retaliation was Keth Prime 7, a peaceful world where Kethvar families raised their young in vast nursery complexes. The colonists there had never seen combat, never imagined that their prey might one day come hunting them. They woke up to find their nurseries empty. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply empty. Every egg, every larva, every juvenile Kethvar had vanished overnight without a trace. In their place, the humans had left detailed biological samples and research notes, written in perfect Kethvar script. Specimens collected for study, read one note found pinned to a nursery wall. Your young show interesting potential for understanding. Fear responses. They are being well cared for in our research facilities. The psychological impact was exactly what the humans had intended. The Kethvar had built their entire culture around being the hunters, never the hunted. The idea that their own children could be taken, studied, and catalogued like laboratory animals was more terrifying than any weapon. Dr. Park Min-soo, leading the xenobiology research program, made his report to Admiral Kim from a captured alien facility. We've successfully analyzed their reproductive cycle. The young are actually quite resilient, and their fear responses provide excellent data about Kethvar psychology. Are you treating them humanely? The Admiral asked, though her voice carried a cold edge that hadn't been there before the war began. We're treating them exactly as well as they treated the species they hunted, Dr. Park replied. Which is to say they're alive and useful for research. Nothing more, nothing less. The human raids continued across Kethvar space. Entire alien outposts would simply vanish overnight, leaving behind only scattered biological samples and data, storage devices filled with human intelligence reports. The attackers moved like ghosts, striking without warning and disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. Commander Yoon Hai-jin led a particularly devastating operation against a Kethvar military depot. Her team didn't just destroy the facility, they converted it into a human forward operating base, complete with research laboratories and interrogation centers. The beauty of their biotechnology, she explained to her officers, is that we can literally turn their own infrastructure against them. Their buildings are alive, which means we can reprogram them to serve our purposes. The captured Kethvar warriors found themselves in a situation their species had never experienced. They were prey animals now, kept alive only as long as they provided useful information to their human captors. Please, one alien commander begged Lieutenant Cho Sung-hwan during an interrogation session. We can offer you tribute, resources, technology, anything you want. We already have your technology, Cho replied calmly. We've reverse engineered it and improved it. What we want is for your species to understand the terror you've inflicted on others. The psychological warfare reached its peak when human forces began broadcasting their activities back to the remaining Kethvar fleet. Just as the aliens had once planned to terrorize humanity, now humans were systematically breaking down alien morale. Major Lee Byung-ho, coordinating the propaganda campaign, ensured that every Kethvar ship received detailed reports about the fate of their colonies. Let them know that nowhere is safe, he ordered his communications team. Let them understand that we can reach them anywhere, anytime. The effect was devastating. The mighty Kethvar fleet, which had once numbered in the hundreds of ships, began to fragment. Some vessels fled deeper into space, hoping to find safety in the galaxy's unexplored regions. Others attempted to surrender, though they quickly learned that humans weren't particularly interested in accepting surrender from species that had planned genocide. Huntmaster Velkar found himself commanding a fleet that was falling apart from within. His warriors, bred for hunting prey that couldn't fight back, were psychologically unprepared for this reversal of roles. They're everywhere, Thexmore reported, his voice shaking with fear. Our colonies, our outposts, our supply lines. How did prey animals become so dangerous? Velkar had no answer. In his final transmission to the Kethvar homeworld, he could only offer a warning. Avoid the third planet at all costs. The creatures there are not prey. They are something far worse than we ever were. The hunters had learned what it meant to be hunted. The Kethvar homeworld fell on a Tuesday morning, 3 months after the last alien ship had fled Earth's solar system. Admiral Kim So-ra stood in what had once been the aliens' grand capital city, watching human colonists unload prefabricated settlement modules from massive transport ships overhead. The conquest hadn't taken long. By the time human forces reached the HFY home system, most of the alien military had already scattered to the far reaches of space. Those who remained were too demoralized to mount any serious resistance. "Ma'am, the integration teams are requesting your approval for the next phase," reported Colonel Yunteho, who had been promoted to planetary governor after his success defending Jupiter. Admiral Kim nodded, studying the reports on her tablet. The numbers were staggering. Humanity had gone from defending a single solar system to controlling territory spanning dozens of star systems. In less than a year, they had become one of the galaxy's major powers. Dr. Park Min-soo approached with his latest findings, excitement barely contained in his professional demeanor. "Admiral, the biotech integration is exceeding all expectations. We've successfully adapted their ship-growing techniques to work with human neural interfaces. The new hybrid vessels are not just faster than anything we've built before. They're actually learning and adapting during combat." The transformation of human technology had been remarkable. Engineers like Chief Designer Kim Jun-ho had taken HFY biotechnology and improved it beyond what the aliens had ever achieved. Where the HFY had grown ships like living creatures, humans had created vessels that combined organic adaptability with electronic precision. "Show me the fleet status," Admiral Kim requested. The holographic display that materialized showed humanity's new military might. Hundreds of biomechanical warships patrolled former HFY territory, each one a fusion of human engineering and alien biotechnology. They looked beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Sleek organic curves housing devastating weapon systems. Captain Lee Dong-min, now commanding one of these hybrid vessels, sent his report from the Outer Rim territories. "Patrol sectors 7 through 12 are secure. No sign of remaining HFY resistance. The local species are requesting protection agreements." That was perhaps the most interesting development. Word of humanity's victory over the HFY had spread throughout the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Species that had lived in terror of the alien hunters for generations were now seeking human protection. Commander Bae Hee-jin, leading the new Colonial Defense Force, was coordinating these first contact situations. "We're receiving delegation requests from 12 different civilizations this week alone," she reported during the daily briefing. Most of them are offering trade agreements in exchange for security guarantees. The galaxy's power structure was shifting rapidly. Where once the HFY had been feared apex predators, now humanity held that position. But unlike the aliens, humans weren't interested in hunting other species for sport. Lieutenant Colonel Moon Yoon-ji had transitioned from special operations to diplomatic security, protecting human ambassadors as they established relationships with other civilizations. "The alien species we're meeting aren't like the HFY," she explained to her team. "Most of them are actually quite peaceful. They just needed someone strong enough to keep the predators away." General Oh Hyun-woo, now serving as Supreme Military Commander for the Outer Territories, oversaw the establishment of humanity's new defensive network. Massive space stations, grown using adapted HFY biotechnology, began appearing at strategic points throughout human space. "Each station can support a full battle fleet," he explained to the colonial administration. "But more importantly, they serve as symbols. Any species looking at our territory will understand that we're here to stay." The surviving HFY had been integrated into human society in a very specific way. They worked in research facilities helping human scientists understand alien biotechnology. It wasn't slavery exactly. They were fed, housed, and treated according to strict ethical guidelines. But they were also constant reminders of what happened to species that threatened humanity. Dr. Han Yu-jin, now leading the Xenobiology Institute, made regular reports on their progress. The HFY specimens continue to provide valuable data. Their natural fear responses have actually improved since we began the program. It seems that being prey has made them more cooperative than they ever were as predators. The message that humanity sent to the galaxy was delivered by Ambassador Lee Min-jung, a former military officer who had been chosen specifically for her combination of diplomatic skill and military experience. Standing before the galactic consensus, the closest thing the galaxy had to a united government, She delivered humanity's first official statement to the wider universe. The human species extends an offer of peaceful cooperation to all civilizations. We seek trade, cultural exchange, and mutual prosperity. We believe that intelligence and civilization should be protected, not hunted. However, we want to be absolutely clear about one thing. She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. Any species that mistakes our offer of friendship for weakness will discover why we are the only predators that our prey never escape. The HFY learned this lesson. We hope others will be wiser. The galaxy had new apex predators, but these ones were different. They didn't hunt for sport or cruelty. They hunted to protect their own and to eliminate threats to civilization itself. And in a universe where countless species had lived in fear of predators like the HFY, that made humanity the most dangerous and most welcome addition to galactic society. The hunt was over. Humanity had won not just the battle, but the right to define what civilization meant among the stars. The former prey had become the ultimate predator, and the galaxy was safer for it.